there's times when it's easier to access this deep inner presence. And times when it's more difficult because it's a harmonizing of the inner and outer. Sometimes it feels like dragging a child out of a toy store. And that the world is this toy store where there's exciting things. Right now, that child of mine, this egoic conscious mind, this character, this player in the world, is engaged, is bothered, is upset by real events, is concerned about the state of the world. This day of 9/11, I think will live in infamy as that kind of a day. And yesterday was that kind of a day. In America. And the world is so interconnected now that I think many people far beyond America felt the effect of the murder of Charlie Kirk. And this is the heartbreaking reality of the time that we're in, of such extreme catalyzing world-shaking events. And it emphasizes for me the absolute importance about us getting our own house in order, in being able to weather the storms, having a foundation, having a sure footing. I don't believe there's really anything in the world outside of us that can provide that. If we're looking outside of ourselves for stability, we're going to be very shaken. These waves of shaking, these events will continue to shake us. And we can use that as catalyst to find what is unshakable within us. This is what this time is about. It's losing faith in the world and gaining faith in ourselves, right now, Chiron is in Aries. And there's all this emphasis on the Aries world axis point. This is war. This is fire of rebirth. Saturn going back into Pisces, the last degree of Pisces, the very last degree of the entire zodiac, for one last catalyzing period before we move fully into the fires of rebirth. This is our last chance to take stock of the things that we value and to note what we're ready to let go of, what we're willing to let go of, even recognizing where we feel great resistance to letting go. That's where we need to look. That's where we being asked to focus on those areas of stuckness, those areas of indulgence in fear and self-delusion. I think this is something that Saturn in Pisces can clean up for us, is where we are deluding ourselves. Aries is ready to burn away everything that's not self. But before we throw it all in the fire, we should examine these things and grieve them. Feel that pain. The illusions and delusions can seem very real, very important, that we have to cling tightly to them. But this process gives us an opportunity to really see how that's actually like concrete shoes dragging us to the bottom. Sometimes we make mountains out of molehills. We have this tremendous capacity to inflate and conflate things. Our emotions and our imagination running wild. Feeling lost in the vastness of that dreamy, nightmarish soup. We lose our direction. We lose our compass points. We don't know up from down. Maybe we've had things that we believed in, even if we didn't totally understand them, we had faith in them. And now we're seeing how that might have kept us in a kind of stuck place, in a kind of limited place, kind of weakened state. Where we're just going along to get along. We don't want to stir up the waters. We don't want to upset people. And so we stifle the fire within us. We already feel like the waters are cloudy and murky, and we're confused about what we feel, and we don't have good boundaries. We're not willing to assert ourselves and take the risk of being misunderstood. And so we don't really stand for anything. There's a huge risk in putting ourselves out there, in saying, this is who I am, this is what I believe in. There may be just this kind of inspired impulse. We may not have even thought long and hard about it. We might be quick to judge those impulses of creativity, of inspiration. I think right now it's important that we feel the grief for the world that is passing away. I think for each person, what that means is different, because the world for each person is different. Because we make our own world. Even all of the information, all the data that's available as to what is going on in the world, we're selecting that We may come across something and disregard it, and then something else we make important. This is how the world reflects us and informs us. But I think there's themes of ending. So for each person, what is ending is unique. What is falling apart? What are the things that we ourselves are asking to let go of? I'm asking myself to let go of all of the self-doubt, all of the disempowered thoughts that I've had, all the disempowering beliefs. All the internalized expectations. I see in the near future moving fully into this I am an Aries, healing this wound of identity that has suggested that I need to be different, to be acceptable, to be successful, to be happy. I need more education, or I need to look different or sound different. So letting go of those and stepping into an unapologetic creative being that may revise my conclusions in a moment. Yeah, I said that yesterday. Today I feel different. I don't have to account to anyone else. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. If you want to play with me, great. If you don't, don't. I'm interested in rawness and realness, authenticity, vitality, aliveness, embodiment, spirit coming into matter, recognizing spirit in matter. Being unapologetic. Not second-guessing myself. Trusting myself. Not overanalyzing myself. Self-reflection is about observation, not dissection. It's about witnessing. It's about allowing. I can trust myself. I can trust that the life experience that I have, the wisdom that I have, will keep me safe. even when I'm transgressing boundaries, even when I'm coloring outside of the lines, I have a wisdom to know when to stop. Maybe those lines and those boundaries were not accurately drawn. Maybe they've shifted. The only way we know is in testing them. Some people might get their back up that their boundaries are being tested. And maybe that's exactly fine. When they get triggered, that's a good sign that they're actually not confident about these boundaries. I think this is something that is specifically the medicine that I bring, because I am very mindful and I am very considerate and I am very caring, but also I have that provocative nature. This is why I am coming to think of myself as a Hayoka empath, whatever that means. Labels are limiting, but they can also be useful. So without agreed meanings, words, we can't communicate at all. So this concept, which maybe doesn't fit, but it's close enough, of a dark empath, of somebody who's walked that fine line where their empathy has become a liability and kind of turned them to the dark side, pushed them into this shadowy realm. And force them to really embrace everything, the light and the dark. And then this, I believe, is what makes the Hayoka empath understanding wise about boundary transgression, and that sometimes it's exactly what is needed. Crisis is often the doorway of rebirth. This is the theme right now. And I believe I am exquisitely tuned to this because I have such an emphasis in Scorpio and Capricorn in my chart that I really do understand this kind of shadow work, this fine line between good and evil. If there is a line at all. The way I see it, it's actually quite gray. And we really can't figure it out as far as trying to sum up the world. The only way we can really navigate it is from within. And when we are connected to that inner source, that inner wisdom, then we have a great compass for navigating the massive amount of decisions that we make in living our lives. It also gives us this feeling of peace, because we know that we're not really the one making the decisions. We can trust, we can relax a bit and allow that guidance to inform us. We can feel that river of fate, you might call it, and trust that all is well. We may make a decision that takes us on a scenic route, but inevitably we come back to our destiny. This puzzle of free will and destiny. And again, I think that when we are connected with the source within us, we understand how that can be. When we're focused out in the world, we feel like things need to be done a certain way. We need to effort things into alignment. And there's some great loss and tragedy if we don't. That we need to cling to things or they'll be forever lost. And I think this isn't true. Gaining and losing, gaining and losing, gaining and losing, this is what incarnation is about, is finding grace in this. Living through enough seasons, a ebb and flow, that you have some peace about it. That in the middle of winter, you remember what summer is like. You don't think that it will be winter forever. I have to constantly remind myself of these things. This is an everyday practice. I guess it's in measure of one's suffering. If life is easy, then there's not much motivation to really look within and be disciplined about focusing in a certain way. And I don't think that life is meant to be hard, but there's hard seasons, and maybe there's even hard lives. And that is in measure, I think, to our desire for having an expanded view of things, having a greater, deeper awareness, having more power to shape one's reality. My desire and my motivations are often bigger picture for others. I'm used to putting myself last. And at the same time, well, what's happened is that I have had to completely isolate myself to nurture a relationship with myself. It's taken that kind of drastic life experience to really spend that time with myself. I think I'm a slow learner because it's been years, it's been most of my life. Because instinctively I know how important it is that we have that center of groundedness, the center of radiance, that's where everything comes from, that I amness. If we're going to do anything, be of service, create, that's where it comes from. When somebody says, I am a doctor, I am a lawyer, I am anything, it's first, I am. Not all doctors are the same. It's that human first. It's the same reason why there has been this emphasis in modifying the language around people with disabilities. It's people with disabilities, so it's person, a man. Some debate about this. There always is with everything, but this is the way that I speak, and this is the way that I think is important. Client-centered, person-centered. Consent. All the dialogue around consent. And again, that's very interesting because there's all this negotiating about boundaries. Where does I am end and you begin? And how do we navigate that intersection? Again, Aries and Libra being essentially the same kind of concept from different ends of the spectrum. I am, we are, these are mutually inclusive. They get their meaning from the opposite. There's no I am without others. There's no others without I am. So, all relationships are really about the quality of I amness that people bring to it. Are you confident in yourself, or are you demanding something from another? Are you trying to manipulate them, trying to get something from them because you in yourself are lacking? Do you get triggered by them because you've given your power to them to do so? Or when something gets triggered, do you reflect and think, well, they don't know my buttons, or it's my responsibility how I respond to things. I can notice emotions coming up. What do I do with them? I can recognize that this thought process is unique to me. And so there's the responsibility for me to share the context that I'm looking at things from. I myself am a bit of an overshare, an over-explainer. And because I recognize it's my responsibility to give other people context, it's my responsibility to give other people the instruction manual as to how I operate. I don't want them making assumptions that I could clear up. I want us to cut to the chase. I want us to get to the important stuff as quickly as possible. And in disclosing the things that I think are important, I give them a chance to find an entry point. Oh, this is the thing that I want to discuss with you. This is a tender area. What are we going to do about this tender area? Are we going to talk about it, or are we going to avoid it? I like going for the tender areas, not in a predatory way, but with a healing intention. Let's explore this. Why is it tender? It seems like this. That means it's important. Let's not shy away from these things. Let's develop the skill where we can go into these areas, these kind of minefields, but navigate it. Even navigate explosions going off. Even feeling like we're dying. Are we able to do that with others? To face those darkest moments with other people. Whether it be their darkest moments or our darkest moments, I don't think it matters. This is, to me, where the empath skill comes in, because we can go there easily, and we can understand especially if somebody lets us in. Like we're there at the door and we can hear some of what's on the other side. And we're saying, you know, I'm bringing something, I'm bringing a light, I'm bringing my heart. Let me in. Even though I'm poking a bit, knocking on the door, I'm not gonna exploit that. I'm not gonna wound it. I'm not gonna wound you further. I'm just gonna point out the wound that already exists. The things that have been shoved under the rug, that are rotting and putrefying and stinking up the place. And there may even be a part of me that is kind of like the dad that comes into the kid's room and says, open the window, for crying out loud. What the hell are you doing leaving rotting food lying around? Yeah, there's this Capricornian Aries part of me has that potential of sometimes kicking ass. Some people need that. When some people have been so negligent, so willfully blind, and it's causing other people to suffer through that person's projection, through that person's deflection and avoidance of that toxicity that's grown, that refusal to face that shadow that other people end up having to deal with. Sometimes those people deserve some karmic retribution. It's a bitter pill. But this is what Saturn does. This is what the patriarch does. This is what Capricorn does. When it sees evil, when it sees a systemic problem, it punishes. I know for myself that's not where I want to go. I would much rather be. My preference is to heal through sensuality and sexuality, is using pleasure, breath, movement, eros. These things can be used to heal because it causes this sublimation, this dissolving, this surrendering. And in that, things can be let go of, because the moment is reframing it. There's a way of reframing trauma through eros, which is one of the nicest ways of doing that shadow work. Kink and BDSM can be used for healing when done mindfully, when done impeccably. But that's for people that are already willing to kind of open up and try things. Those that are rigid and tightly controlled, and they may have a harder time with that. And especially if there's elements of narcissism where people can not stand criticism. To me, this is the red flag of narcissistic behavior. When people cannot handle being poked, cannot handle any kind of criticism, that's when the Hayoka really comes in to do the dirty work. And I say dirty work because it's going to be messy. It's going to be war. And you're not going to win against the Hayoka. A Hayoka is a sacred clown. A Hayoka has the power of light and dark, of the sun and the moon, of male and female, of paradox. They're a magical being that is entrusted with those powers because they understand the gravity of it. They have been triggered by other forces to face the darkness within themselves, to face their own weakness, their own undoing. They've been in the very same situation many times of having to let go and surrender to the point of becoming masters of it. They can channel any energy, whatever's needed. They're servants of the universe. So it's best not to get into a battle of wills with a Hayoka, because you'll lose. The more defiant, the more rigid, the more egotistical somebody is about being right, the more pain they're going to experience in that altercation. And that altercation can seem to be over. For example, that person could just block, stop talking to, shut down, close off, all that stuff. But a seed will be planted. Forces will be unleashed. That cannot be avoided. I've known that I had this power for a long time. And it frightened me. I was afraid of harming. But I realized that in being afraid of harming, I also limit my ability to do good. They go both hand in hand. Probably the people that will benefit most from any kind of relationship with me are those that are at their wits' end, those that feel they have nothing left to lose, and so they're willing to trust. They're willing to surrender. They're willing to face the darkness. Because that's what's necessary. That's what's necessary for the transformation. The healing of whatever wounds, whatever baggage, whatever drama, whatever restrictions and limitations and suffering, and the birthing of an evolved self, an evolved consciousness. A new you. It's scary, it's terrifying, and most people avoid it until they cannot. Until the world is falling apart, until there's so much pain and suffering that one is willing to do anything Just yesterday, I met a fellow, said that he'd been suffering with something terrible for 5 years. And I told him I could relate. He's in the right place. He's in the right place to work with me. He said he was willing to do anything to heal. And I think that's where we all need to be right now. That's the time we're in. What that anything is, what that sacrifice is, and this is intrinsic to to pretty much every spiritual tradition, some kind of sacrifice. Offerings, a bunch of, Hinduism, I believe Sikhs do it. There's, Buddhists offer flowers. There's some kind of offering. There's some kind of sacrifice. It's recognized that there's an exchange for the old, releasing, letting go of something, surrendering something in exchange for the new. But I guess because we don't know what the new is, we stay stuck and attached to the old. We've identified with the old. And that is exactly why it needs to die, because none of these things were meant to identify with. None of the things of the world were meant to identify with. We'll always experience loss and death if we do. Our identity comes from within. That's where it's fresh. That's where it's new. That's where it's truthful. Until that is our priority, that is our reference point, we will continue to experience painful suffering and loss. It doesn't need to be so painful. Instead, it can move to a place of gratitude. That may be a leap when we're faced with suffering. But the way that we move through suffering is just to be with it, to recognize it and not avoid it. To feel it without making it bigger, making it our identity. Just in observing it, it will shift. It will change. It will evolve. It's the avoidance of it that makes it so painful. Makes it so unbearable and disabling. Pain, when embraced, is just a sensation. It's not the end of the world. It's the fear of the pain. It's the fear of the cold. It's the fear of deprivation that is the worst part. But once we face it, we realize that this too shall pass and that we're not destroyed in the process. This is what we need to learn from this time right now. To just be with what is. And let go.